5 years passed after humanity signed the treaty with the Empire. In that time, the galaxy witnessed changes that few could have predicted when Thulrax first discovered New Haven. The humans emerged from their underground cities, not just on their hidden moon but from several other secret settlements scattered across the outer fringe. 2 million survivors became visible, bringing with them technologies, ideas, and perspectives that challenged the established order. New human settlements appeared on various worlds. Some chose to remain underground, comfortable with what they had always known. Others built surface cities, finally able to feel wind and rain after 3,000 years of artificial environments. Each settlement maintained its independence while contributing to the larger human community and their obligations to the Empire. Human engineers joined Imperial research teams, bringing their unique problem-solving approaches to projects that had stalled for years. Human doctors studied alien biology while sharing their own medical advances. Human artists created works that blended 3,000-year-old Earth traditions with new galactic influences. Slowly but surely, humanity integrated into the wider civilization while maintaining its distinct identity. Bora became something of a celebrity in scientific circles. Her shielding technology was only the first of many innovations she helped develop. She founded a research institute that brought together human and alien scientists, creating an environment where different ways of thinking could merge and produce unexpected breakthroughs. Her team solved problems by asking questions no one else had thought to ask. Daewon joined the Imperial Defense Forces, where his combat experience during the Kraveth attack made him valuable as both a fighter and a trainer. He taught alien soldiers tactics that seemed strange at first but proved devastatingly effective. Retreat was not cowardice but strategy. Surrender of ground was not weakness but preparation. Victory was not about strength but about adaptation. These concepts were foreign to many species, but they worked. Taemin became a general, leading joint human-imperial military units. His reputation from the defense of New Haven gave him credibility with both humans and aliens. He built his forces around principles humanity had learned through harsh experience. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and never stop adapting. Hana remained humanity's primary voice in the High Council. Her diplomatic skills proved essential as humans navigated the complex politics of galactic civilization. She negotiated trade agreements, mediated disputes, and gradually built a network of allies among species who respected humanity's determination and creativity. Thulrax, promoted to admiral, maintained his friendship with the human leadership. He visited New Haven regularly, watching the city repair and expand. The scars from the Kraveth attack had healed, replaced by new construction and improved defenses. The settlement that had hidden for 3 millennia now welcomed visitors from across the galaxy. Then the Void Swarm came. The first reports were confused and terrifying. At the galaxy's edge, entire star systems went silent. Ships sent to investigate never returned. Long-range sensors detected something massive moving through space, consuming everything in its path. The Empire mobilized its forces, sending fleets to intercept whatever was coming. The initial battles were disasters. The Void Swarm was not a single entity, but millions of smaller organisms working with perfect coordination. They did not use conventional technology. They were technology. Biological machines evolved or designed for pure destruction. They adapted instantly to whatever tactics were used against them. Energy weapons were absorbed and used to power their growth. Kinetic weapons bounced off shells that hardened on impact. Strategic retreats were exploited as they pursued and destroyed fleeing ships. The Empire's forces fought bravely but found themselves outmatched. Species that had dominated warfare for thousands of years discovered that their traditional approaches were useless. The Void Swarm could not be intimidated, could not be reasoned with, and could not be defeated through conventional means. Panic spread through the Empire as the swarm consumed system after system. The High Council met in emergency sessions, searching desperately for solutions. Military leaders who had spent their careers preparing for war against other species found themselves facing an enemy that broke every rule they understood. That was when Taemin requested permission to address the council. He stood before the assembled representatives, older now but still carrying himself with the quiet confidence that had defined his career. Honored Council, I have studied the reports from every engagement with the Void Swarm. I believe I understand why we are losing. Counselor Zethrock, now leading the unified military response, gestured for him to continue, explain. We are fighting them as we would fight each other, Taemin said. We use formations, we hold territory, we seek decisive engagements. But the swarm does not care about any of that. They do not value honor or territory or anything we can use against them. They only care about consumption and growth. He activated a holographic display showing the swarm's movements. To defeat them, we must fight like humanity fought for 3,000 years. Not as conquerors, but as survivors. We must use tactics that have no honor, no glory, and no pride. We must be willing to lose every battle except the last one. The concept was controversial. Many species valued martial honor above practical effectiveness. The idea of deliberately losing fights, of appearing weak, of using deception and retreat as primary tactics went against everything they believed about warfare. But as the Void Swarm continued its advance, practical concerns began to outweigh philosophical objections. Taemin was given command of a joint task force. He immediately began implementing strategies that made traditional military leaders uncomfortable. His forces did not meet the swarm in direct engagement. Instead, they used hit-and-run attacks, striking vulnerable points then disappearing before the swarm could respond. They abandoned territory without fighting, leading the swarm into prepared kill zones. They used the swarm's own adaptability against it, feeding it false information through captured organisms. Bora's research team developed new weapons based on human thinking. Instead of trying to be more powerful, they focused on being more confusing. Weapons that changed their properties randomly, making adaptation impossible. Shields that flickered on and off in unpredictable patterns. Tactics that made no logical sense but created chaos in the swarm's coordination. Day 1 led specialized infiltration teams deep into swarm-controlled territory. They did not try to fight the massive organisms. Instead, they targeted communication nodes, disrupting the coordination that made the swarm effective. They planted biological agents that did not kill the swarm but made it sick, reducing its efficiency. They rescued survivors from consumed worlds, giving hope to populations that thought themselves doomed. The turning point came at the Battle of Krethis Prime, a heavily populated world that stood in the swarm's path. Traditional strategy called for evacuating the population and abandoning the planet. Taemin proposed something different. They would defend the planet, but not in any way the swarm expected. His forces spread across the planet's surface in small, mobile units. They allowed the swarm to land, giving up territory freely. To observers, it looked like humanity was losing badly, but every retreat was planned. Every abandoned position contained surprises. The swarm found itself spread across an entire planet, fighting thousands of small engagements instead of one large battle. Then the trap closed. Bora had developed a device based on the electromagnetic pulse technology humans had used against the Krevith, but vastly more powerful. When activated simultaneously from hidden positions across the planet, it disrupted the swarm's coordination completely. Individual organisms suddenly found themselves cut off from the collective intelligence, confused and vulnerable. In the chaos that followed, Taemin's forces struck hard and fast. They did not try to kill every swarm organism. They targeted the ones trying to reestablish coordination. They forced the swarm to choose between reconnecting and surviving. The swarm's own instinct to adapt became its weakness as different groups tried different strategies, creating further confusion. The battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, the swarm forces on Krethis Prime were destroyed. More importantly, the swarm's advance was stopped. For the first time since it emerged, the Void Swarm had been decisively defeated. News of the victory spread through the Empire like wildfire. Taemin's tactics were analyzed, discussed, and gradually adopted by other forces. The war was far from over, but the tide had turned. The Empire learned to fight like humanity fought, with creativity, with adaptability, and with the absolute refusal to accept defeat. 10 years after the Battle of Krethis Prime, the Void Swarm was pushed back to the galaxy's edge and contained. The cost had been terrible. Dozens of worlds were lost and billions had died. But the galaxy survived, largely because humanity had taught other species how to endure. Thalrax stood beside Hana at a memorial service honoring those who fell in the wars. The service was held in New Haven, now a thriving city that welcomed visitors from across the Empire. Children played in spaces that had once been battlegrounds. Gardens grew where defenders had made their stand. News of the battle traveled across the Empire like wildfire. Within days, every inhabited world knew that humanity had repelled a Krevith assault force. The implications shook the foundations of galactic politics. A species that had been declared extinct for 3,000 years had not only survived in secret, but had defeated one of the Empire's most aggressive military factions. In direct combat, the High Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species filled the Grand Chamber, their voices creating a cacophony of debate. Some praised humanity's defensive capabilities. Others expressed concern about a species that had prepared for war so thoroughly. The Kravith representatives, humiliated by their defeat, argued that humanity posed a threat that needed to be controlled immediately. Ambassador Velthara stood before the council, her feathers displaying colors of determination. The Kravith attack was illegal under Imperial law, she stated clearly. They assaulted a newly contacted species without authorization during active diplomatic negotiations. Humanity's response was purely defensive. They protected their home and their children. Any species here would have done the same. Councillor Zethrock, the military leader who had argued for immediate incorporation of humanity into the Empire, rose to speak. His species valued strength above all else, and he saw the battle as proof of his position. This only demonstrates what I said before. Humanity has capabilities we need. Their defensive innovations, their tactical thinking, their refusal to surrender. These are valuable assets. We should bring them into the Empire immediately, before they develop further on their own. The debate raged for hours, but ultimately the Council agreed on one thing. Humanity could no longer be ignored or dismissed. They needed to be addressed directly. The Council sent an official invitation to New Haven's leadership to come to the Imperial capital and present their case before the full assembly of species. In New Haven, Hana received the invitation while coordinating repair efforts. The battle had damaged significant portions of the city, though the core systems remained intact. Citizens worked day and night to restore their home, showing the same determination that had carried them through 3 millennia of isolation. They want us to come to them, Hana told the Leadership Council, to speak before the entire High Council and all member species. This is our chance to define our relationship with the galaxy on our terms. Taemin, still recovering from minor injuries sustained in the battle, nodded thoughtfully. It is also dangerous. We will be walking into the heart of an empire that is still deciding whether to protect us or control us. We cannot hide anymore, Day One said. The galaxy knows we exist. We need to show them who we are and what we want. Hana agreed. Then we will go. We will tell them our story and present our terms. If they will not accept us as equals, we will find another way. The delegation that traveled to the Imperial capital included Hana as chief diplomat, Daewon representing the younger generation, and Bora, a brilliant engineer who had helped design many of New Haven's defensive systems. Tholrax escorted them personally, feeling responsible for their introduction to the galaxy and determined to see them treated fairly. The journey to the capital took several days on Tholrax's ship. During that time, Bora spent hours studying the Empire's technical databases, absorbing information about technologies humans had never seen. Her ability to understand complex systems quickly impressed Tholrax's crew. Your mind works differently from most species I have met, Tholrax commented as he watched her work through quantum physics equations that would challenge most Imperial scientists. You see connections others miss. Bora smiled without looking up from her work. We learned to think creatively because we had to. When you live underground with limited resources, you cannot afford to waste anything. Every problem requires efficient solutions. That mindset becomes part of your culture after a few generations. When they arrived at the Imperial capital, the scale of the Empire became clear. The orbital stations surrounding the planet could have held New Haven's entire population 10 times over. Ships from dozens of species moved in carefully controlled traffic patterns. The planet below glowed with the lights of billions of inhabitants. Daewon stared at it all with wide eyes. We thought we were alone. We thought we were all that was left. But look at this. The galaxy is full of life, and now you are part of it, Velthara said, meeting them at the docking station. Her feathers showed welcoming colors. Come, the council is eager to meet you. The council chamber was built to accommodate species of vastly different sizes and environmental needs. Some representatives sat in chairs. Others floated in specialized environments, A few existed as energy patterns contained in stasis fields. All of them turned their attention to the three humans who walked to the center of the chamber. Hana felt the weight of countless eyes, sensors, and consciousness fields focusing on her. 3,000 years of hiding had led to this moment. She took a deep breath and began to speak. Honored Council, we are humanity. Our ancestors fled Earth before it was destroyed. Guided by warnings they did not fully understand, they found refuge on a hidden moon and built a new home beneath the surface. For 3,000 years we survived in isolation, believing we were alone in the universe. She explained their history, their culture, and their values. She described how they had maintained their identity while adapting to underground life. She spoke of their preparations for potential contact, the defensive systems they built, and the reasons behind their caution. We did not want to fight the Kravith, Hana said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. But we will not be conquered or enslaved. We survived too much to surrender our freedom now, Counselor Zethrock interrupted. Your defensive capabilities are impressive, but you lack faster-than-light travel, advanced weapons, and many other technologies the Empire considers essential. You need the Empire's protection and resources. In exchange, you should share your innovations and integrate into our structure. Hana met his gaze steadily. We appreciate the Empire's interest in our well-being, but we did not survive 3,000 years alone, just to become subjects of someone else's empire. We seek cooperation, not subordination. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some species supported humanity's position, remembering their own struggles for independence. Others argued that practical considerations should override idealistic principles. The discussions threatened to dissolve into chaos until Bora asked for permission to speak. Honored Council, she said, her voice younger but no less confident than Hana's. Perhaps a demonstration would help clarify our position. We brought something to share. She activated a portable holographic projector, displaying complex energy equations that made several Imperial scientists lean forward with sudden interest. This is a breakthrough in energy shielding technology. Your records show the Empire has struggled with this problem for decades. We solved it. The projection showed how the shield worked using principles that combined aspects of multiple known technologies in ways no one had thought to try. The solution was elegant, efficient, and entirely new to Imperial science. We developed this by approaching the problem differently, Bo-Ra explained. We did not think about how to make shields stronger. We thought about how to make them more adaptable. Like us, they survive by changing rather than resisting. She looked around the chamber. This is what humans can offer the Empire. Not stronger weapons or bigger ships. We offer new ways of thinking about old problems. We offer perspectives shaped by 3,000 years of survival against impossible odds. We offer partnership, not as inferior subjects but as equals who bring something unique to the table. The chamber fell silent as the council members absorbed this. Belthara's feathers showed approval. Even Zethrock looked thoughtful rather than dismissive. The council deliberated for 3 days. During that time, Hana and her delegation met with various factions, answering questions and negotiating terms. They refused to compromise on their core demand for independence but showed flexibility on other issues. Finally, the council reached a decision. Humanity would be granted independent status within the Empire's sphere of influence. They would have full rights and representation in the council. They would maintain control over their own territories and populations. In exchange, they would contribute to joint scientific and defensive efforts, sharing their innovations while learning from other species. It was not perfect, but it was fair. More importantly, it was a beginning. When Hana received the official treaty document, she read it carefully before signing. Beside her, Daewon and Bo-Ra added their names as witnesses. 3 signatures that represented 2 million survivors stepping out of the shadows and into the light. Tolrax watched the ceremony with quiet satisfaction. He had found a lost civilization and helped guide them to this moment. Whatever happened next, humanity would face it not as hidden refugees but as recognized members of the galactic community. The galaxy had changed, and so had humanity's place in it. The attack came without warning in the dead of night, which meant nothing in a city underground where time was measured by clocks rather than the sun. Alarms screamed through New Haven's passages as sensors detected multiple hostile craft entering the moon's thin atmosphere. Taemin was already moving before the first explosion shook the city. His instincts had been correct. Someone had come for them, The Kravath collective strike force hit hard and fast. Their ships landed at multiple entrance points simultaneously, disgorging combat troops equipped with advanced weapons and armor. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met serious resistance before. In their experience, newly discovered species folded quickly when faced with superior firepower. Taimin reached the command center, where displays showed the enemy advancing through outer tunnels. "Seal sections 3 through 7, he ordered. "Activate the defensive systems and get civilians to the deep shelters. Now." His officers moved efficiently, trained by years of drills they hoped would never be needed. Throughout the city, emergency protocols activated. Families grabbed prepared bags and moved to designated safe zones. Security teams took up positions at key intersections. Everyone knew their role because they had practiced it countless times. Daewon led his scout team toward the nearest breach point. They moved through tunnels they had explored since childhood, using passages too small for the Kravath troops in their heavy armor. As they approached the enemy position, Daewon signaled for his team to stop and observe. The Kravath soldiers were large, covered in thick exoskeletons that served as both armor and environmental suits. They carried energy weapons that could punch through standard defensive barriers. But they moved clumsily in the tight spaces, clearly uncomfortable in the underground environment. They kept looking around nervously, unused to fighting where they could not see the sky. "They are scared of being underground," one of Daewon's team members whispered. "Look at how they bunched together." Daewon saw it too. The Kravath were powerful in open warfare, but these tunnels were different. Here their size and strength became disadvantages. "Fall back to Tunnel Junction 12, he ordered quietly. "We will give them what they want." The Kravath force pushed deeper into the city, meeting less resistance than they expected. They followed their tactical maps, moving toward what their intelligence said was a critical power station. If they could capture it, they could control the city's life support and force a quick surrender. But the maps were wrong. The humans had provided false information through carefully leaked documents, feeding the Kravath intelligence agents exactly what they wanted them to see. The real power stations were elsewhere, hidden behind additional layers of security. What the Kravath were moving toward was a trap. Taimin watched the enemy positions on his displays. "They are almost in position," he said calmly. "Prepare Sequence 7. When the Kravath reached Tunnel Junction 12, they found themselves in a large chamber that seemed to be exactly what they were looking for. Power conduits ran along the walls. Control stations lined the center. It looked like a critical facility. Then the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, but it was dim and flickering. The Kravath troops activated their weapon lights, scanning the darkness. That was when the electromagnetic pulse hit. The EMP devices the humans had built specifically for this purpose discharged simultaneously from hidden positions. The Kravath's advanced armor suddenly became metal coffins as their electronic systems failed. Weapons stopped working. Communications cut out. Even their enhanced vision systems went dark. Panic spread through the Kravath ranks as they realized they were blind, deaf, and vulnerable in hostile territory. Some tried to retreat, but the tunnels behind them had collapsed. Others attempted to advance only to find the way blocked by reinforced barriers that had dropped from the ceiling. Human defenders emerged from concealed positions, wearing simple armor and carrying basic but effective weapons. They did not try to fight the Kravath head-on. Instead, they used tactics developed over 3,000 years of preparation. Flash grenades disoriented the already confused enemy. Smoke filled the chambers, adding to the chaos. Carefully placed charges brought down more tunnel sections, breaking the attack force into smaller groups. Daewon's team moved through the confusion with practiced precision. They had trained for exactly this scenario, fighting in the dark against larger enemies. They used their knowledge of every passage and shortcut to outmaneuver the Kravath, striking quickly then disappearing before the enemy could respond. In another part of the city, the Kravath made a different mistake. They tried to use biological weapons, releasing agents designed to sicken the human population. But New Haven's air filtration systems were among the most advanced equipment they possessed. The toxins were detected immediately and neutralized before they could spread. Worse for the Kravath, the humans had prepared counter-agents of their own. Taimin authorized the release of a harmless but highly effective compound into the sections occupied by Kravath forces. It did not hurt them, but it confused their sensors and made them violently nauseous. Soldiers who moments before had been confident attackers were suddenly doubled over, unable to fight effectively. On the bridge of his ship, Tholrax watched the battle unfold with growing alarm. The Kravith had not informed the Imperial delegation of their attack, launching it while Velthera and her team were still in diplomatic meetings. Now he faced a choice. Imperial protocol demanded he remain neutral in conflicts between member factions. But watching the Kravith attack civilians violated everything he believed in. "Prepare our defensive batteries," he ordered his crew. "If any Kravith ships try to bombard the surface, we will intercept them." His second officer looked uncertain. "Commander, that could be seen as taking sides in an internal Empire matter." "Then it will be seen that way," Tholrax said firmly. "I will not stand by while they massacre innocents. Record my decision. I take full responsibility." The battle in New Haven reached its peak in the main city center. A Kravith assault team had managed to break through to the residential areas, threatening civilians. Taman led a counterattack personally, coordinating with Day 1 scouts and other defense units. The fighting was brutal and close. The Kravith were dangerous even without their technology working properly. Their physical strength made them deadly in hand-to-hand combat. But the humans fought with desperate courage, protecting their homes and families with everything they had. Daiwan found himself face-to-face with a Kravith soldier who had cornered a group of children. The alien was twice his size and armed with a blade that could cut through steel. But Daiwan had something the Kravith did not. He knew exactly where every support beam, every structural weak point, and every emergency system was located in this section. He lured the Kravith soldier away from the children, leading him under a section of ceiling that Daiwan knew was unstable. A well-placed explosive charge brought tons of rock down on the enemy soldier, neutralizing the threat without direct confrontation. The children escaped while Daiwan moved on to the next crisis. The battle lasted 6 hours. As dawn would have broken on the surface if anyone were watching, the Kravith forces found themselves trapped, disorganized, and defeated. Their assault had failed completely. Some surrendered. Others fought until they were captured. A few managed to retreat to their ships and flee. Tholrax's vessel intercepted one Kravith ship, trying to launch orbital bombardment. A warning shot across their bow convinced them to withdraw instead. The Empire would have to deal with that diplomatic incident later. In the aftermath, New Haven counted its costs. 37 humans had died defending their home. Hundreds more were injured. Parts of the city had suffered significant damage. But they had won. They had faced a military force that had conquered dozens of species, and they had defeated it. Taman stood in the damaged command center, exhausted but proud. Daiwan joined him, carrying a young child who had been separated from her parents during the evacuation. Around them, citizens emerged from shelters to survey the damage and begin repairs. "We proved something today," Daiwan said quietly, handing the child to a medical team. "What is that?" Taman asked. "That humanity does not die easily," Daiwan said. "We survived losing Earth. We survived 3,000 years alone. And now we survived our first test against the larger galaxy. Whatever comes next, we will face it the same way." Word of the battle spread through the Empire faster than any official report could travel. Humanity had fought back against a superior force and won. The galaxy was forced to recognize that these survivors were not weak remnants of a dead civilization. They were a people who knew how to endure, how to fight, and how to win against impossible odds. Everything had changed. The days following first contact moved quickly. Tholrax sent his report to the Empire, knowing it would cause chaos in the halls of power. While he waited for instructions, the humans of New Haven opened their city to careful inspection. They were cautious but not hostile, curious but not naive. Every interaction revealed more about how they had survived alone for so long. Hana became his primary contact, showing him different sections of the settlement. She moved with confidence through the underground passages, greeting citizens by name and handling questions about the alien visitors with practiced ease. Tholrax found himself impressed by her ability to remain calm while her entire world changed around her. Our ancestors knew they would be alone for a long time, Hana explained as they walked through a massive agricultural dome. Plants grew in carefully managed rows under lights that mimicked sunlight. They built systems that could last generations. Everything here is designed for efficiency and sustainability. We waste nothing because we cannot afford to waste anything. Tholrax examined the growing stations. The technology was different from what the Empire used, but it worked remarkably well. Your people adapted to underground living completely. That requires significant psychological adjustment. We have strong cultural practices around mental health, Hana said. Living underground can drive people mad if they are not careful. We have meditation spaces, recreational areas, and strict work schedules to prevent burnout. Every person contributes, but no one is pushed beyond their limits. They continued to another section where Tholrax met Taimin, the chief of New Haven's defense forces. He was older than Daewon, with scars on his hands that spoke of hard training. His eyes assessed the alien commander with professional interest, seeing both potential ally and possible threat. "Commander," Taimin said with a slight bow, "Hana tells me you want to understand our defensive capabilities." "If I am honest, yes," Tholrax replied. "The Empire will want to know how you have protected yourselves." Taimin led them to a training facility where humans practiced combat techniques. Unlike the grand military academies of the Empire, this place felt practical and efficient. Everything focused on results rather than ceremony. "We trained for the possibility that someone might find us," Taimin explained. "We studied the ruins of other civilizations that our ancestors discovered. We learned from their mistakes. Many species grew complacent. They forgot that survival requires constant vigilance." He demonstrated some of their defensive systems. Electromagnetic pulse devices that could disable electronic equipment, collapsible tunnel sections that could seal off entire areas, biological agents designed to confuse sensors rather than kill. Everything showed creative thinking applied to survival. "You prepared to fight species you had never met," Tholrax said, suddenly understanding. "You built these defenses against theoretical enemies." "We had no choice," Taimin said simply. "Hope for peace but prepare for war. That is how we survived." Back on the Imperial homeworld, Tholrax's report created exactly the chaos he expected. The High Council met in emergency session. News of humanity's survival spread through the government, then leaked to the public. Within days, every species in the Empire knew that humans were alive. The Empire sent Ambassador Velthara to assess the situation. She was a graceful creature with feathers that changed color with her mood, showing blues and greens when she felt calm. Her species valued diplomacy and careful negotiation, making her perfect for this delicate first contact. Velthara arrived with a larger delegation, including scientists, military observers, and cultural specialists. Hana met them with the same calm demeanor she had shown Tholrax, but the stakes were higher now. This was not just one ship, Captain. This was the Empire making official contact. "The High Council is very interested in your people," Velthara said during their first formal meeting. Her feathers showed honest curiosity. "We have many questions about how you survived and what you want for your future." "We want what any people want," Hana replied. "Security, prosperity, and the chance to grow. For 3,000 years we hid. Now that we are found, we must decide what kind of relationship we will have with the larger galaxy." Over the following weeks, Velthara met with different members of New Haven's leadership. She toured their facilities, attended their cultural events, and slowly began to understand what made humanity unique. They were not the most technologically advanced species she had encountered. They lacked faster-than-light travel and many other innovations the Empire considered basic. But they had something else, something harder to define. One evening, she spoke with Daewon as he showed her an observation dome where humans could look out at the stars. "Your people are different from what I expected," she admitted. "Every challenge I present you see as a puzzle to solve. Every problem becomes an opportunity," Daewon smiled. "We learned that from our ancestors. When you lose everything, you have two choices. Give up or adapt. We chose to adapt. We kept choosing it every single day for 3,000 years. That persistence is remarkable," Velthara said, "but it may also concern some in the Empire. Species that refuse to give up can be dangerous. Is that a warning or a compliment?" Daewon asked. "Both," Velthara said honestly. "The Empire values strength, but it also fears chaos. You are strong, but we do not yet understand you." While these careful diplomatic discussions continued, darker forces were moving. The Kravith Collective, a rival faction within the Empire, learned about humanity through their intelligence networks. They saw opportunity where others saw complexity. The Kravith built their power by incorporating lesser species into their hierarchy, often by force. A newly discovered species without strong protections was exactly what they needed. Their agents moved in secret, gathering information about New Haven's location and defenses. They studied the reports that leaked from the Imperial delegation. They planned their approach carefully, knowing they had to act before the High Council made any official decisions about humanity's status. In New Haven, Taemin felt uneasy. His scouts reported strange sensor contacts at the edge of their detection range. Ships that appeared briefly, then disappeared. Someone was watching them, and it was not the official Imperial delegation. "We are being surveyed," he told Hana during a private meeting. "Someone is planning something. I can feel it." Hana trusted his instincts. "Increase our defensive readiness. If trouble comes, we need to be prepared." Taemin nodded and left to give orders. As he walked through the city, he thought about everything they had built. 3,000 years of survival could not end now. They had hidden for so long, grown so carefully. Now the galaxy knew they existed, and that knowledge brought danger as well as opportunity. Velthara reported her findings to the High Council. "Humanity should be granted protectorate status," she recommended. "They have proven themselves capable of survival and show potential for positive contribution to the Empire. But they need time to develop and protection while they grow." Not everyone agreed. Counselor Zethrock, a powerful military leader, argued for a different approach. "They have defensive technology we could use. They have adapted to challenges in ways we have not considered. We should bring them fully into the Empire immediately, before someone else claims them." The debate continued in the council chambers while Tholrax remained in New Haven, watching both the humans and the stars. He had found them. He had revealed their existence to the galaxy. Now he could only hope that discovery would lead to protection rather than destruction. The storm was coming. Everyone could feel it. The stars looked the same as they always did in the outer fringe. Cold, distant, and uncaring. Commander Tholrax stood on the bridge of his vessel, watching the empty space through the massive viewing screen. His scales caught the dim light of the ship's controls, reflecting a dull green shine. He had been searching dead worlds for 15 years now, looking for traces of civilizations that no longer existed. It was his job to find them, study them, and catalog their remains for the Valthek Empire. Today should have been like any other day. Another barren moon, another empty dig site, another report filed away in the Imperial archives. But the energy readings told a different story. His science officer, a thin creature with 4 arms and pale blue skin, kept checking the instruments with growing confusion. "Commander, these readings make no sense," the officer said. "There should be nothing here. This moon is supposed to be dead, but I am detecting power signatures, strong ones." Tholrax moved closer to examine the data himself. The moon orbited a massive gas giant in a system that had been marked as uninhabited for thousands of years. No one came here. No one had any reason to. Yet the instruments showed clear signs of artificial structures beneath the surface, not ancient ruins that barely produced a signal, but active installations drawing significant power. "Prepare a landing team," Tholrax ordered. "Full survey equipment. If someone is down there, we need to know who they are and what they are doing in restricted space." The landing shuttle descended through the thin atmosphere. The moon's surface looked exactly as the records described it. Gray rock, impact craters, and nothing else. No cities, no settlements, no signs of life. But as they flew lower, the sensors showed something different. Beneath their feet, tunnels stretched for hundreds of miles. Massive chambers existed deep underground. Whatever was here, it was hidden well. They landed near a rocky ridge where the scans showed an entrance. The team moved carefully, weapons ready but not raised. First contact protocols required caution but not aggression. Tholrax led them into a natural cave that quickly became something else. The walls turned smooth and metallic. Lights activated as they passed, responding to their movement. This was not natural. This was built. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber that took Tholrax's breath away. Buildings rose from the floor in neat rows, reaching toward an artificial sky painted on the ceiling high above. Gardens grew under controlled lighting. Water flowed through channels that ran alongside pathways, and people moved through it all. People who looked impossibly familiar from the historical records. They were human. The discovery froze everyone in place. Humans were extinct. Everyone knew this. 3,000 years ago, their homeworld had been destroyed in an event called the Great Silence. No survivors were ever found. The Empire had searched for decades before declaring humanity lost forever. Yet here they stood living and breathing, going about their daily lives as if their species had never died at all. A group of humans noticed the landing team. They stopped moving, staring at the aliens with the same shock that Thalrax felt. For a long moment nobody moved. Then one of the humans stepped forward. He was young, with dark hair and eyes that showed no fear despite the situation. He wore practical clothing and carried some kind of tool at his belt. "You are not from here," the human said in a language that the Empire's translators recognized instantly. It was an old form of Earth Standard, preserved perfectly across the centuries. "We did not expect visitors." Thalrax found his voice, though it took effort. "I am Commander Thalrax of the Valthek Empire. We detected energy signatures and came to investigate. We thought this moon was uninhabited." The human studied them carefully. "My name is Daywan. I'm a scout for our settlement. We have lived here for a very long time. We thought we were alone in the universe." "Your species is listed as extinct," Thalrax said, still struggling to believe what he was seeing. "How is this possible?" Daywan gestured for them to follow. "That is a long story. Perhaps you should meet with our leaders. They will want to know about you as much as you want to know about us." They walked through the underground city while more humans gathered to watch. Children stared with wide eyes. Adults whispered to each other in concerned voices. The architecture blended natural cave formations with advanced construction techniques. Everything looked maintained and functional, showing a society that had not just survived but thrived in isolation. Daywan led them to a large building at the city's center. Inside they met Hana, a woman with intelligent eyes and a calm demeanor that suggested she was used to handling difficult situations. She introduced herself as the settlement's primary diplomat, though Thalrax suspected that title had not been used much until today. "Our ancestors left Earth before it was destroyed," Hana explained once they were seated in a meeting room. "They received warnings from sources we still do not fully understand. Ancient signals that told them something terrible was coming. Most people did not believe the warnings, but some did. They built ships and left, searching for a place to hide. They found this moon," Daywan continued. "It was perfect. Hidden, isolated with resources beneath the surface. They went underground and built New Haven. That was 3,000 years ago. We have been here ever since, believing we were the last humans alive." Thalrax listened to their story with growing amazement. "How many of you are there?" "In this settlement, about 50,000, Hana said. "There are other settlements on different worlds, though we have limited contact with them. In total, perhaps 2 million humans survived. 2 million. From a species declared extinct. The Empire would need to rewrite its entire historical database. More than that, the political implications were staggering. A lost civilization that had survived on its own for 3 millennia would have rights under imperial law. They could not simply be absorbed or controlled. "I must report this to the Empire," Thalrax said. "Your existence will cause quite a stir across the galaxy." Hana nodded slowly. "We expected as much. For 3,000 years we have wondered if we would ever meet other intelligent life. We prepared for this day, though we never knew when it would come." "What happens now?" Thalrax looked at the humans gathered around him. They showed concern but not fear. They asked questions but did not beg. They carried themselves with quiet dignity that spoke of a culture that had survived impossible odds. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. "Now," he said carefully, "we talk, and the Empire listens, because humanity, it seems, has quite a story to tell."